of the need to clean up the voter list in the first place. And that's why the Election Commission is undertaking what is called the Special Intensive Revision, or the SIR. The question is twofold. To Mr. Gandhi and to the opposition, yes, no one is claiming, not even the Election Commission is claiming, that the electoral rolls are 100% pure. The entire purpose of the exercise of the SIR is to try and make it as close to perfect as possible. The question, of course, is how can Mr. Gandhi jump to the conclusion that the 65 lakh voters who've been deleted in Bihar, or the 41 lakh voters who've been added in Maharashtra, this was an allegation that he made earlier, are all in favor of the BJP? There is no way to prove that. And to the BJP and to the Election Commission, well, can't we have a system where the very basis of our electoral democracy, which is that elections are free and fair and that the process is transparent, can't the Election Commission come out and fully be on board about it and fully be transparent about it as to what the problems with the electoral rolls are and how best they can fix it? But first, here's a collection of reactions, political reactions, to what has been the biggest political talking point for a number of days now.
राहुल गांधी जी आजकल हमारी जो संवैधानिक संस्थाएं हैं उन पे अनाप शनाप आरोप लगा रहे हैं और झूठे आरोप लगा रहे हैं और लगातार झूठ बोल रहे हैं। ये जो आप स्टेटमेंट दे रहे हो ये भी झूठ पर आधारित है। झूठ पर आधारित राजनीति इस देश में चलने वाली नहीं है।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बहुत साफ शब्दों में कह चुके हैं कि ये जो SIR है, स्पेशल इंटेंसिव रिवीजन करते हैं इलेक्टोरल रोल को, ये आज़ादी के बाद होते आए हैं और ये होना भी चाहिए। नहीं तो मृत लोगों को नाम काटना और फिर नए लोगों को जोड़ना। और राहुल गांधी चाय पीने के नाटक क्यों करते हैं? वो ऐसे मृत नाम को हटाने के लिए ही तो ये SIR करते हैं।
So this matter is being contested not just in the political court, but it's also being contested in the Supreme Court. The apex court is hearing petitions challenging the Election Commission and its drive, the special intensive revision of the SIR that it's doing with the electoral rolls in Bihar, in which 65-odd lakh names have been deleted for various reasons. Either those folks have died, or they've migrated, or they have two Aadhaar cards, duplication, and so on and so forth. There are three takeaways from day 3 of the hearing in the apex court. Number one, the Election Commission told the Supreme Court that they are operating in an atmosphere of sharp political hostility, that hardly any decision that they take, including the latest one around the special intensive revision in Bihar, any decision that they take is not getting uncontested. In fact, the opposition is raising the matters for politics' sake, and the EC has taken offense to it. They have mentioned as much to the Supreme Court. The poll panel has claimed that there is enough reservoir of power that resides with the Election Commission that they have to take certain decisions. So which means if there's going to be an intensive review of the electoral rolls in Bihar, they don't need to convince political parties about it. They have statutorily the power entrusted by the Constitution within the Election Commission to clean up the electoral rolls. The court then asked the Election Commission, and it's a pertinent question, why can't you put out these names? And remember, in Bihar, the Election Commission's claim has been there are 65 lakh names that have been deleted from the voter rolls because, like I said, they are either dead or migrated or there is duplication. The court asked the Commission, why can't these names be put up on the website of the Commission or on a display board at the headquarters of the Commission? Those aggrieved then can take remedial measures within the next 30 days. Why can't you disclose the names of the people who have died, migrated, or shifted to other constituencies? The two-judge SC bench also told the Election Commission that they don't want the rights of citizens to be dependent on the workers of political parties. So far, the Election Commission's contention has been, why is it that political party workers are not coming in challenging or not coming up with cases of these 65 lakh voters whose names have been deleted from the electoral rolls? It's been 10 days plus now since that exercise has been open to the public. They're saying no political party or its workers have come forth and said that these are the problems. These are the specific names that have been deleted and these people exist and they deserve a vote. None of that has happened. That's the contention of the Election Commission. But first, let's play out more political reactions to this and then we'll go across to our case.
आज जो सवाल पूछे जा रहे हैं वो आज के सवाल हैं। उनका जवाब 45 साल पुराना कागज नहीं हो सकता। अभी जवाब दीजिए और उस वक्त के लिए भी माफी मांगी जब आप ही की सरकार ने वो कागज बनाए। उनको बोलिए हिम्मत है तो जवाब दे राहुल गांधी के सवालों का। न हिम्मत है इनमें, न ऊपर से अनुमति मिलेगी। चले आते हैं बोलने।
जनता के बीच में जागरूकता फैलनी चाहिए, कैसे उनके वोटों के अधिकारों का हनन हो रहा है, किस तरीके से वोट्स का दुरुपयोग होकर, मैनिपुलेशन होकर, बल्क वोटर्स कर रिजल्ट का हेराफेरी चल रही है और इलेक्शन कमीशन कोई जवाबदेही लेने को तैयार नहीं है।
All right, I want to go across to a straight political face-off on this. Mr. R.P. Singh is national spokesperson of the BJP. Supriya Srinath is national spokesperson of the Congress Party, also in charge of the social media of the Congress Party. Supriya Srinath, let me ask you first, I'm coming to you tonight from Maharashtra, and here in Maharashtra, Mr. Gandhi had alleged that there were 41 lakh new voters who had been added to the rolls between January and October when the elections happened last year. So he said all of these people are voting for the BJP. That's malpractice. Now in Bihar, he's saying 65 lakh voters' names have been deleted. They're all again being done at the behest of the ruling party. So addition of voters is also a problem. Subtraction of voters is also a problem. The Election Commission is saying this is a natural process. It happened in 2014. It happened in 2004. Every time there is an intensive review exercise, voters' names get deleted. So what's the big deal?
So Zaka, good evening to you and to your viewers, and I want to specify here very categorically that this part of the show is being pre-recorded. I don't want this viewers to believe this is being played live. This is pre-recorded, and because you are perhaps speaking from a location, maybe your office hasn't updated you, because the biggest headline today is not that the Supreme Court is asking ECI why it can or cannot publish 65 lakh people's names who have been deleted. It has very categorically directed the Election Commission of India to not just specify the names of the 65 lakh people whose names have been deleted from the voter list, but to also give reasons for their deletion. This is an order, this is a direction from the Supreme Court of India. And not just that, the Supreme Court of India has also asked the Election Commission to specify that Aadhaar will be a basis for making voter ID cards. Just to put the record straight, that's the big headline today. The big headline is not going round and round and round in circles. The big headline is that the Supreme Court of India has asked the Election Commission of India to publish the names of 65 lakh voters whose names have been deleted in Bihar. A lot of them who are alive have been declared dead. The dead have been declared alive, and there are anomalies galore. I mean, I can go from Nirmala Devi, who's a mayor of the BJP, to Vijay Sinha, who's the deputy chief minister, to Veena Devi, who's a member of parliament, to Bhikhu Bhai, who actually voted for Amit Shah in Gandhinagar in the Lok Sabha and is now a Bihar Sangathan Mahasachiv for the BJP, and has now enrolled himself as a voter in Bihar with no address there. I can go on and on. I can go on about the number of people registered in one single address in Muzaffarpur, 267, 249 in Jamui. I can go on. But the Supreme Court of India has directed the Election Commission of India this afternoon. You have to publish the names of people whose names you've deleted and give reasons. Something that the Election Commission has categorically said before they will not do. So they've been asked to do that. As far as Mr. Gandhi's assertions are concerned, I'm a little amused with the use of the word alleges. This is Supreme Court's own, this is Election Commission's own data. And the Election Commission's own data says that for the first time, and I will go back to 2004 to 2024, for the first time in 20-25 years that we have tracked this data, the number of people added in Maharashtra in the 5-month period between Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha of a year versus a 5-year period between the previous Vidhan Sabha and the Lok Sabha has been higher. Traditionally, that number was either half or 1/3. This time, the number of voters added is larger than the numbers of voters added in the last 5 years. And this is not an allegation. He is not manufacturing numbers. These are numbers available from the Election Commission of India website. This is Election Commission of India giving us data. And the Supreme Court, by the way, has also categorically told the Election Commission of India that you don't just have to name the people. You also have to give their epic numbers in a digitally readable format. That's exactly what Rahul Gandhi has been demanding and asking for. It's actually a very big day for voters in Bihar. You deleted 8% of the votes in Bihar without giving a single reason.
The clarification from the EC even put out earlier was that in the same period between January and October of 2014, also there was a similar spike between Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. But anyway, that's a separate matter. I want to ask R.P. Singh, which is a valid question to ask.
I can tell you that's wrong, and I'll tell you why.
Which the court also, one second.
I can tell you that's wrong.
Let me ask R.P. Singh,
because I'm giving you a figure just for your information. I will
one
read out a
second.
number to
One
you.
second. RP saying
Zaka, I'll
the
read out a number to
question,
you.
the question.
Because you are look,
Yeah, I'll come
look
to
at
you. I'll
question
come to you. But let me
number-
ask
Doctor,
RP
allow
Singh. The
her,
question
otherwise
that the
she won't allow
Supreme
you
Court,
to carry on the
the
debate.
Supreme Court,
Please
no,
allow
the
her.
Supreme Court
No,
asked
please
today,
allow her.
which
She
is
won't
a
allow
which
you
is
to
a
carry on the
valid
debate.
question. No, sir, one second.
She's a
One
heckler.
second.
She won't allow you to carry the
The
debate. Allow
valid
her,
question
please.
that the Supreme Court has asked, 65 lakh voters, admittedly by the Election Commission's own admission, have been deleted from the voter rolls in Bihar. Who are these people? Are they dead? Are they alive? Have they migrated? The Election Commission has now been told to put this up on their website. That's how it should be in a democracy. People have the right to know if their name has been deleted from the voter rolls, and if it has, then for what reason? What's wrong with that?
Well, Zaka, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's a process of election. I mean, it's a process of democracy. But let's understand, electoral roll is not final at any given time. It's always dynamic. I mean, you today, you do a cutoff today, by another 15 days it will change. But in this process, the election has already started. So this is the process which is there. Let me show you what did Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi was saying for the Telangana election. Delete 70 lakh voters. He was saying there are alleged manipulation of 70 lakh names in Telangana voter list. He demands election commission's intervention. Yes, Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. And let me tell you, 22 lakh voters were deleted in Telangana. And Mr. Ravindra Reddy was very joyfully welcoming the decision of the election commission. So it's an ongoing process. And we are for it that there should be complete transparency as far as election commission goes, and everything should be on board. But issue is not what's happening today. There are two things which has happened on ground. I am sending you a video. If you can play that video, otherwise I'll play that video for you. That is that what happened, and this is what happened on ground.
स्कूल है, पब्लिक प्राइवेट स्कूल है, सरकारी है, उसमें पढ़ाई अच्छी होती है।
मतलब अब तो इंटर में चले, सरकारी में पहले से बहुत अच्छी बेहतर है।
हाँ,
पहले से बेहतर है।
क्या क्या सीखते हैं उसमें?
उसमें कंप्यूटर भी है लोगों के लिए, और और उनको किताब भी मिलता है, और साइकिल का पैसा मिलता है।
अंग्रेजी,
हाँ,
अंग्रेजी सीखते हैं,
अंग्रेजी भी पढ़ाया जाता है।
So Zaka, this is the actual reason for it. Because they know that they are bound to lose election, they can't defeat Prime Minister Modi in electoral process through voting. That's why create an environment of unrest, anarchism, so that probably they can do something like which they, I mean, their leader has admitted, Manoj Jha, that
Can I please come in?
it can be something like, I never interrupted you, ma'am. So it can be something like Bangladesh, which has to be done. But their intention is what Soros wanted here. What Soros has probably done in Bangladesh, they want to repeat Bangladesh here. It's not electoral roll. Earlier they used to call on EVM hack ho gaya. If EVM can be hacked, then why do one need to play with the electoral rolls? I mean, that's their logic.
Okay.
Stands,
No. So there are two points.
please
There are
come
2
in?
points, and Supresh Srinath, please answer. On the Maharashtra question, the Chief Electoral Officer of Maharashtra has clarified that between January of 2024 and October of 2024, the addition of 41 lakh voters that Mr. Gandhi is alleging, a similar number, 40 lakh voters, just under 40 lakh voters, was added between January of 2014 and October of 2014, where again there was the gap between the Lok Sabha elections and the Vidhan Sabha elections. That's point number one. Point number two, the issue as far as SIR is concerned is that no one has a problem with the SIR. SIR happened in 2005 as well. SIR is now happening in 2025 in Bihar. The issue is, yes, as the court said, those people whose names have been deleted have the right to know why their names have been deleted. But to say that, the entire exercise is fraught in irrationality or fraught to rig the elections for the BJP, how are you jumping to that conclusion?
So Zaka, as a trained former journalist and somebody who wants to use her brain, I will go beyond what the Election Commission just tells us. Election Commission said we added X numbers of voters between 2004, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, and the same number of voters. No, they did not. And I will tell you why are they lying. In 2004-14, the Election Commission of India in the 5-year period added 48,30,000 voters. But in the 5-month period, they added 27,29,000 voters, nearly half. In the 5-year period, of this year, 2024, they added 32 lakhs and added more number of voters, which is over 41 lakhs in the 5-month period. You can see the data in 2004, you can see the data for 2014, 2019. It's the similar picture. Don't go by percentage. The number of votes added in a 5-month period is half of the number of votes added in the 5-year period, like it would ordinarily be, and nobody has an issue with that. If the number of voters added exceeds the 5-year period, questions will be raised, and let Election Commission of India not misguide you, because this is their data. You can question me a lot.
No, but Supriya, one second. Again, I don't. No, one second. I don't want to contest the data. I don't want to contest the data. But please answer the question. Please answer the question. How do you know that all of those 41 lakh people voted for the BJP? How are you making that assumption or that conclusion?
I will tell you. I will tell you in just a bit, only if you allow me to speak. You have asked me 2 questions. Let me answer your second question now. I don't take data lying down, because I've got some brains here. I assess the data. I assess the data right for you, because you said Election Commission said same number data. No, that's a lie. I assess the data for you. Election Commission stands exposed between you, me and the BJP spokespersons right away. I also will answer your second question before I go to your follow-up right now. Nobody has an issue with SIR whatsoever. Of course, voter cleanup is required. Of course, people who are dead, their names needs to be weaned out. No issues with that. But you cannot have SIR when 70% of Bihar is submerged under floods. Why are you suddenly having an SIR when actually Bihar has finished its summary review, its entire review? The voter list was published by the Election Commission of India and handed over to political parties in January this year. What was that exercise then? And the question is, arbitrarily people are being added, deleted, if you go to any other part of the country, you can give your Aadhaar card and you will get a voter ID card. But in Bihar, in Purnia, you will not get a voter ID card because of Aadhaar, but in Patna you will. How is that acceptable? Zaka, there is a very fine line between the arguments that are being made. And let me tell you, this entire debate is not about Rahul Gandhi versus Narendra Modi. This is not about BJP versus Congress. This is also not about opposition versus the treasury benches. This debate, this issue is about the principle of one man, one vote, the very basis of our constitution. You can be rich, you can be poor, you can be a woman, you can be a man, you can be a Telugu, you can be a Delhiite, you can be from wherever. If you are a citizen of this country, you will get one vote, no matter how powerful or powerless you are. This challenges that very thing. The SIR exercise that has happened in Bihar is showing gross anomalies. I have quoted numbers after numbers to you. Bhikhu bhai, how is he registered in Bihar right now? Sangathan Mahasachiv banke kya karne ke liye घूम रहे हैं? अभी गांधीनगर में वोट दिया, बिहार आ गए. निर्मला देवी, विजय सिन्हा, पिंकी पासवान, जमुई.
RP Singh, the crux of the issue is, nobody is denying that there needs to be revision of the rolls. Absolutely, the revision of the rolls need to be happening because people have died or people have moved on. They have left the state. All of that is fine. In 2003, the last time this happened, the assembly election was 2 years away. Why undertake now in 2025, 3 months before the election, this special intensive review? Number one. Number two, the bigger question, and I think frankly the more important question is, this 65 lakh voters whose names have been deleted for whatever reason, they're dead, they've migrated, duplicate voters, whatever it is, 1 year ago, they voted in the Lok Sabha. So all these fake voters voted in the Lok Sabha?
Would have been possible. There's very much a possibility. And that's what SIR is for. But let me tell my co-panelist here that already they have raised question on all this. What did Maharashtra Bombay Court said about this? High Court said about this that he said don't come to us and don't waste our time. They went to the court and court said don't waste our time. But let's say the issue. Issue is
that?
Zaka. Please, ma'am, stop your habit of haggling. I never interrupted you even once. You have a bad habit of haggling. But let's say what's the bigger issue? Issue is Zaka, that this whole the exercise is being done to ensure that only voters who are citizen can vote, not other than citizen can vote. This is a very normal process, but they have to raise question. And Election Commission on their Twitter handle has categorically said Mr. Rahul Gandhi is misleading. A person who mislead is called fraud or whatever language you want to use. So he has all the right to go to court and file a defamation against Election Commission. This I'm reading from the Election Commission Twitter handle. And also, this all is not debate between BJP or Congress. It's a debate between Soros and India. There is a plan, bigger plan of bringing unrest to the country.
Supriya, quick rebuttal. I have to move on to the next segment after
other
this.
objectives or bigger objectives.
Quite frankly, Zaka, the basis of the entire debate is the question you asked. These same people voted a year back and elected a large number of MPs of the NDA from Bihar. Those MPs should all resign because these people are not Indians. Why do they continue to be in parliament? There should be re-elections everywhere. That's the question. Mr. R.P. Singh, do not interfere because I did not interrupt you when you asked me not to. Do you even, Mr. R.P. Singh, please keep quiet and listen
I got to wrap up. I got to wrap up. Thank you very much, Supriya Srinath, R.P. Singh. I've got to move on to the next segment. But like I said, this is a fundamental, critical issue to the health of democracy in this country, and we hope that the Supreme Court, is able to give the necessary clarity to the doubts that have been raised by certain political parties. I want to stick with other news coming out of the Supreme Court today. It cancelled the bail that was previously granted to Kannada actor Darshan and several others who were accused in the brutal killing of Renuka. During the proceedings today, the Supreme Court strongly criticized the bail order by the Karnataka High Court, saying it appeared more like a final verdict than some form of temporary relief. The bench also raised concerns about whether the High Court follows a similar approach in all other bail matters, and it also went on to say that they would not repeat such a mistake ever. A few hours after the court's order today, actor Darshan was arrested from his wife's apartment in Bengaluru. In fact, this has led to huge political reactions. In fact, when he was given bail a few months ago, it led to, and justifiably so, it led to a huge amount of outrage in Bengaluru as well as other cities, because these are not light charges that we're talking about. This is the brutal murder of an individual that we're talking about, and something that was caught on camera just moments before the death of Renuka. Let's listen into various reactions that have come in on this story.
Darshan ಅವರ ಬೇಲ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ರದ್ದಾಗಿದೆ, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಂತ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇದು ನಮಗೆ ನ್ಯಾಯದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಒಂದು ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ನಾಗ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬೇಲ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಆತಂಕ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಆದರೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವರು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಮಾಡಿ ನಮಗೆ ವಿಶೇಷ ತನಿಖೆ ಅಂತಂದು ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ಗೆ ಅಪೀಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ನಮಗೆ ಭಾಳ ಇದಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಅದರಂತೆ ನ್ಯಾಯವಾದಿಗಳ ಒಂದು ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ನ್ಯಾಯಮೂರ್ತಿಗಳು ಇವತ್ತು ಆ ಬೇಲ್ ರದ್ದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಇಡೀ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಳಿಯೋದೇನೆಂದರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಅಪರಾಧಿ ತಕ್ಷಣಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಂಗಾಗಿದೆ.
Meanwhile, the top court strongly emphasized that there will be no VVIP treatment to any of the accused, no matter who they are, film stars or celebrities or what have you. That kind of VVIP treatment will not be tolerated, regardless of the celebrity's status. It also said that all accused must be treated equally under the law. Justice Pardiwala, who was here heading the bench, he said that the day we come to know that the accused is being given some kind of 5-star treatment in jail, then we will place the jail superintendent under suspension. Justice Mahadevan, who is the second judge in this bench, he observed that it's evident that the High Court order reflects a mechanical exercise of power. The court also said that the granting of bail in such serious cases risks influence by the accused, which is one of the fundamental conditions to deny bail to someone, that if the accused is an influential person and thereby can influence witnesses, then that is grounds for denying bail.
In the sensational Renuka murder case, the Supreme Court today gave a detailed judgment as to why actor Darshan's bail has been cancelled. The court not only cancelled, in fact, the bail granted to actor Darshan, but also cancelled the bail granted to all the accused persons in the Renuka murder case. The court went on to say that the Karnataka High Court has granted this bail without the application of the judicial mind. It said that the order has been passed mechanically and is riddled with infirmities. the Supreme Court also gave a warning, in fact, to the state of Karnataka. Remember that actor Darshan was actually receiving, in fact, VIP treatment inside jail. His pictures, while smoking inside the jail premises or the jail cell was something that had done rounds, and it was, criticized by the common people. And now, finally, the Supreme Court has addressed that. This is a bench headed by Justice J.B. Pardewala and also comprising Justice R. Mahadevan, which very clearly and categorically told the state of Karnataka that if at all any kind of a VIP treatment is shown to, in fact, actor Darshan or any other accused, then there would be strict action that would be taken, and in fact the jail superintendent would be suspended, is what in fact the Supreme Court had to say. Remember that this case had been in the limelight after actor Darshan was actually implicated in this particular matter, and in fact actor Darshan's conduct was something that was talked about by the Supreme Court in the hearings when the state of Karnataka had knocked the doors of the Supreme Court seeking in fact a cancellation of bail.
Ties between India and the United States seem to be very, very rocky thanks to President Donald Trump. It started with President Trump imposing 50% tariffs on India for keeping its interests in mind and buying Russian oil. 25% reciprocal tariffs on India and 25% for buying Russian oil. Now, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has suggested that the secondary tariffs on India and also on China, they're threatening to impose that on China. So far, they've not imposed it on China. They've imposed secondary tariffs for oil, Russian oil, only on India. Scott Bessent has said that it could go up higher and higher for buying more oil from Moscow. Add to that the latest provocation from the United States. The U.S. State Department has put out a joint statement with Pakistan about jointly combating terror. Now, many analysts say this is one of the most challenging moments for the relationship since 1998, when the United States imposed sanctions on India after India tested a nuclear device and became a nuclear weapon state in the tests that happened in Pokhran. But India has made it absolutely clear that this strategic partnership is anchored in shared interests and mutual respect and shared values. This is a huge challenge, no doubt about it, but it is a passing storm, and it is something that India needs to ride out. Let's listen in to what the MEA spokesperson had to say.
India and the United States share a comprehensive global strategic partnership anchored in shared interests, democratic values, and robust people-to-people ties. This partnership has weathered several transitions and challenges, as we had said earlier as well. We remain focused on the substantive agenda that the two countries have committed to, and we hope that the relationship will continue to move forward based on mutual respect and shared interests.
Well, irony seems to be playing itself out best in Washington. Not only does it seem like President Trump has given a clean chit to the very state that sponsors terror, the terror state that is Pakistan, and continues to harbor terror in its backyard, but now the U.S. State Department has lauded the apparent success that Pakistan has had in its sustained fight against terror. A joint statement put out by the U.S. State Department and the Ministry of Interior in Pakistan has read that both sides are committed to counter-terrorism and stress the need for continued partnership between Islamabad and Washington, D.C. This is almost like the pot calling the kettle black, but this is the statement that has been put out by the U.S. State Department.
We had a experience with Pakistan and India when there was a conflict, one that could have developed into something quite horrible, and there was an immediate concern and immediate movement with the Vice President, the President, and the Secretary of State in addressing the nature of what was happening. The top leaders in this nation involved in stopping that potential catastrophe. I would say that our relationship with both nations is as it has been, which is good, that the diplomats here are committed to both nations.
So the India-US strategic partnership has been anchored in 25 years of closed values and shared, counter-terror strategy and shared interests in countering and becoming a counterweight to China. But this has been a complete U-turn in the last 6 months that President Trump has been in office, and no one can quite really explain why he's had such a change of heart, both vis-a-vis India and also vis-a-vis Pakistan. Maybe it's because he wants the Nobel Prize, and Asim Munir has given a letter nominating President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. India has, of course, not agreed to the suggestion that it was Trump who brought about the ceasefire between India and Pakistan after Operation Sindoor. But be that as it may, this is in stark contrast to what happened back in 2018 during his first term as president. Donald Trump had said that the United States of America was foolish to give Pakistan over $30 million in 15 years in the so-called war on terror, in fighting terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, etc. That same year, in his first term as president in 2018, he said that Pakistan knew that Osama bin Laden was living very close to the Pakistan Military Academy in Abbottabad, about 60-odd miles from the capital, Islamabad. 7 years later, Trump's administration is all praise for Pakistan's fight against terror. Asam Munir has been invited to Washington, first for a lunch with President Trump, and then subsequently again to the United States a few days ago to Tampa, Florida, where he was part of the farewell celebrations for the CENTCOM chief, Admiral Michael Kurilla.
मैं ये बताना चाहता हूं आज दुश्मन को कि अगर तुम हमारा पानी बंद करने की धमकी देते हो तो ये बात ज़हन में रखना कि पाकिस्तान की एक बूंद भी तुम पाकिस्तान से छीन नहीं सकते।
इस मुल्क के अवाम में इतना ताकत है कि जंग की सूरत हो तो जंग में भी हम इनका मुकाबला कर सकते हैं और जो आपके 6 के 6 दरिया है वो वापस हासिल भी कर सकते हैं।
We are a civilizational state, a society that has withstood the test of time and nurtured its culture, traditions and heritage. We have overcome adversities and we have addressed multiple challenges in the journey towards progress and prosperity. It is essential in times of unpredictability to stand firmly on our own feet. Atmanirbharta is, of course, the mindset to deal with global turbulence.
So this is arguably the lowest point in Indo-US ties in the last 25-30 years, certainly since the US imposed sanctions on India after the nuclear tests in 1998. How did we get to this point and how can we get out of this? Javed Ashraf is a senior former Indian diplomat. He's been former ambassador to France. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ashraf, for speaking with us. People have tried to explain it as, the vagaries of dealing with a president who's very mercurial, who's very disruptive. But really, how did we get to this point that within 6 months of the second term of Donald Trump in office, from being, almost like a most favored nation, now we've come to be in the doghouse, at least as far as Trump is concerned. How did we get here?
Well, first of all, let me, on the eve of Independence Day, wish you and your colleagues and your viewers a happy Independence Day. A special tribute, in particular, to all our men and women in uniform, those who have served now before and they're serving now, and those who have made the supreme sacrifice. Yes, it is a moment of reckoning, and then we are discussing this on the eve of the Independence Day. I think it's a combination of various factors. And if you ask me, I think there is a fundamental difference in the way President Trump approaches international relations, in particular, what is generally considered to be the foundational principle of India-US relations, which is the Indo-Pacific, and our approach to it. And I'm telling you that his goals are different, and his strategy is of direct dealing with China without the classical US strategy of involving formal or informal allies in the process, which allows for a certain degree of accommodation. And you've seen that we are not the only ones. Their closest, the strongest allies in the Indo-Pacific for more than 7 decades, Korea and Japan were the first to get letters. What they have as a deal is nothing but which is extractive, punitive, and extremely one-sided. European Union is facing the same problem. Taiwan is in a state of uncertainty. You've seen that some of his decisions that he has taken will not sit down very well in Taipei in terms of confidence in US commitments. So we're dealing with a completely different scenario. The United States, under him, no longer finds the international order that it built itself to be attractive or useful. He is demolishing or dismantling all the instruments of US external engagement, trade, technology, investment, soft power, education, mobility, guarantees, commitments. These were the underpinnings of the US engagement, and that was the premise also of our relationship. And all of that has changed. Maybe perhaps we could have assessed this better. But the second problem here is that goes well beyond trade. We've had this issue, Zach, of agriculture, dairy, poultry for more than 2 decades with every president. But they have understood the red lines that we have. We've also had problems on purchase of oil with Iran because we insisted on our sovereign choices in the past. But then again, now you're dealing with a very different person who is basically driven by this belief that he has boundless powers to be coercive, extractive, and punitive in dealing with people, particularly those who feel do not have leverages to extract a similar deal from the United States or hurt China as China has.
I'll come to what India needs to do about it, but I get your point that he may not view the Indo-Pacific, he may not view that India being a counterweight to China in the ways that previous presidents did. But what explains the fawning over Pakistan? I mean, Asim Munir has been invited twice now to the United States. First time
it's a good question you've asked, because I think we don't have this long-term memory. First of all, I think if you go back to his first term, you would see that he was pretty soft on Pakistan. He had similar mediating instincts. And, he has turned, if I may be a little blunt, on television, that he has turned the White House into a personal family enterprise of profit. We have seen certain decisions that Pakistan has made. But let me tell you also this. Since Pakistan's independence till the end of the Cold War, they were the frontline state. There are deep institutional linkages. And the United States, I've dealt with the US from 98 onwards for more than 10, maybe even 15 years. US has a fatal love and attraction for the Pakistan military. They have contempt for civilian leadership there. They talk about democracy in Pakistan, but they only want to deal with the military. Even in the worst of times in relationship between Pakistan and the United States, they have always maintained a protective attitude towards the Pakistan military. Also, in our own security cooperation, US-India security cooperation, they have always insulated the state and the military of Pakistan from anything we do. There's a friend-on-friend policy with regard to Pakistan, and that imposes a huge limitation on this. But there have been many U-turns. I can give you one very specific example. They were close to, during President Bush's initial year, before 9/11 happened, they were close to designating Pakistan, which is actually the darkest history in any country in terms of terrorism, nuclear proliferation, and reckless nuclear blackmail, more than any other country. They were close to declaring it as a rogue state. The 9/11 happened, there was a major U-turn. There have been many U-turns in US-Pakistan relations, but the consistent thing is that even in the worst of times, there is a deep military attraction, or let's say attraction for or utility of Pakistan military. It's a compliant
the concern is how can the United States brook the fact that you have the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan issuing nuclear blackmail from American soil? I mean, everybody's ears should have been up because of that, and we haven't heard a squeak from the State Department or from the White House. I mean, how is this being condoned?
Absolutely. And once again, I'm telling you that I am not surprised by this, because when there was a proliferation, evidence of brutal, clear proliferation relationship between Pakistan and North Korea, I'm talking about 2003, where uranium enrichment technology was being given by Pakistan, a barter agreement in which they were getting from North Korea the Nodong missile technology, which is called the Shaheen 1,300 kilometer range missile. It was being carried out on C-130, a US aircraft. But when it came to sanctioning, they sanctioned North Korea under the Arms Export Control Act, which was a blanket sanction, but they found a way to let Pakistan get away with it. And this was the first instance I saw where they decoupled the two sides of the proliferation. So I think we have, I would say, even our relationship with the United States was on this rising tide of strong strategic partnership. We often lost sight of the fact that for the United States, they find some of very important utility. What I call, in a troubled region, you need a rogue, a compliant rogue, a supportive rogue to do your missions. And I think Pakistan does that. You remember that in March, President Trump mentioned Pakistan in his State of the Union address for counterterrorism cooperation. I mean, that was a very special thing to do, to mention Pakistan. It was a signal of how Pakistan was going to play this now, coupled with all the other things that they have done. And therefore, I think this is once again a lesson for those who are watching this relationship, India, US, Pakistan, this triangle more recently. I can also tell you that there was a time when United States actually formally demarched us that don't open consulates in Afghanistan because it is called upsetting Pakistan. That was the first time I had seen in diplomatic history that someone was formally demarching us not to do something in another country on behalf of a country that has been one of the greatest centers of, or the greatest center of terrorism. So you have to recognize that there is a history of a relationship that first goes back to the Cold War frontline era, but it continues to be the case in the era of counterterrorism. In an unstable nuclear armed state, Pakistan has managed to negotiate with the United States with a gun to its head. It says if military is not there, you will have a collapse in the state, and therefore you need to work with us. I mean, I have some extraordinary instances when I was in Washington, D.C., of the way the U.S. went out of its way to protect Pakistan. So it's not a surprise.
Okay, Javed Ashraf, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts and perspective into what has been really a U-turn, some would say, in the world of diplomacy. It doesn't happen. It's the ship, it's the big ship that moves ever so slightly. But it has happened quite dramatically in the world of diplomacy in the last 6 months between India and the United States, and clearly also between the US and Pakistan. Talking about the United States, there could be an even more dramatic turn in the next 24 to 48 hours as US President Donald Trump has issued a stern warning to Russia and to Russian President Vladimir Putin ahead of what is the most highly anticipated talks between the two leaders. It's going to happen in Alaska. It's going to be Friday night, India time, Saturday morning. He has threatened severe consequences on Moscow if Moscow were to obstruct the peace efforts that are going on or that will play out in Alaska in the next 24 to 48 hours. Trump has also hinted at a potential economic sanctions or even punitive measures should the meeting between the two leaders, Trump and Putin, fail to yield results. What Trump wants is an immediate announcement of a ceasefire. What Putin wants is to continue the war on the battlefield. The stakes are high, though, as the entire world watches these historic talks. Trump also suggesting the possibility of a future three-way summit involving the Ukrainian President Zelensky as well. Let's listen in to what Donald Trump had to say ahead of his meeting in Alaska with President Putin, the first time that they're meeting in over 6 years, and whether or not something concrete will come out of it, we'll have to wait and watch.
If the first one goes okay, we'll have a quick second one. I would like to do it almost immediately, and we'll have a quick second meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky and myself if they'd like to have me there.
All right, so what can we expect in Alaska when President Trump and President Putin meet? This is the first time that they're meeting in over 6 years. Max Abrams is a political scientist, also with the Northeastern University in the United States. Thanks, Max, for joining us. What are sort of the expectation settings, if you will, when Trump and Putin meet in Alaska? Do you expect some kind of big breakthrough announcement to be made at the end of the meeting, as Trump is hoping he can?
I think there's a very real possibility that the meeting isn't going to lead to any concrete, resolution to this highly lethal, intractable conflict. We know that Russia doesn't want to retrench from Ukraine, and Zelensky doesn't want to cede any territory, and both sides are prepared to lose large numbers of their fighters, and it's a real tragedy. I am happy to see Trump at least try to intervene to host this important meeting, and I think that is very different than under the Biden administration, where there really didn't seem to be any U.S. strategy. The United States just provided endless amounts of money and weapon to Ukraine without any sort of end game in sight. In order for Trump to be successful, ultimately he needs the belligerents themselves to find some bargaining space. I'm not sure whether or not that happens, but again, I definitely appreciate this U.S. leadership in trying to end this so-called never-ending war.
India, of course, has very real stakes in the outcome of this meeting because, not least because of the secondary sanctions that Trump has imposed on India for importing Russian oil, the 25%. So India is now one of the most tariff nations in the world at 50%, along with Brazil. India wants this war to end quickly and there to be a ceasefire announcement. How does India sort of watch this from the sidelines? Prime Minister Modi has spoken with both President Putin and President Zelensky in the last few days. Admittedly, I mean, I'm sure he would have told them that, look, we want you to end this war, not least because war in itself is bad, but also it has a knock-on effect on us. How do you think New Delhi will be viewing this?
I think that India has a strong interest in this conflict in Ukraine de-escalating. My understanding is that there was 25% tariffs slapped against India, and then, at least supposedly, because of India's purchasing of Russian oil, which again we're told funds the war in Ukraine, that India was then smacked by an additional 25%. And so if the war in Ukraine winds down, then, we're told that maybe that additional 25% for the Indian purchase of Russian oil wouldn't be tariffed. So I know that India is very much paying attention. I myself, honestly, am a little bit skeptical that the stated rationale for these tariffs is, sincere. And that is because Russia doesn't only trade with India. Russia, trades with Europe, for example, even with the United States. It seems like some kind of a strange justification to raise tariffs on India, to exert pressure on Russia, to try to reach some kind of a resolution in Ukraine, and to force Modi to open up the Indian markets in a more favorable way from the perspective of Donald Trump. I don't know that there's any inherent organic relationship otherwise between the war in Ukraine and trade policy between the US and India.
But Max, tell me this. So it's not just the question of the Russia importing of oil that India is doing as a result of which these tariffs have been imposed, but it's also the overall deterioration of the relationship that folks are concerned about. You look at the statements that Asa Munir has been making from American soil, threatening nuclear blackmail, nuclear war, taking down half the world if there were to be something between India and Pakistan. The fact that India is not given credit, may I use that word, given credit to President Trump for bringing the war between India and Pakistan to an end, even though he's mentioned it, I think, about 30-odd times. I've lost count, really. The overall relationship between Delhi and Washington has slumped. And many are asking, how do we get to this point?
I think it's very sad, honestly, and stupid and surprising, because if you look at the Donald Trump campaign and you look at, some of the high-level officials that he's chosen in his administration, there was a big emphasis on actually improving U.S.-India relations, that India was indispensable for the United States. There was talk of actually increased trade, hundreds of billions of dollars more, weapon defense cooperation. India was going to play this hugely important role as a bulwark against Chinese expansion in the Indo-Pacific. There have been a number of flare-ups in the Middle East with Iran and, the counterterrorism campaign against Hamas. And the realists have always said, we can't engage in these conflicts because the real focus must be on containing China. This administration has really focused, at least rhetorically, on containing China. And yet, when you actually look at U.S. policy, it doesn't make any sense in terms of containing China, not only in terms of the weakening of U.S.-India relations, but arguably also U.S. relations with Japan, where the U.S. has rankled that bilateral relationship as well. Meanwhile, and I'm sure you could speak to this as well, it seems to me is that India has not only a more negative view of the Trump administration, but there are even signs of some overtures, some increased overtures towards China with respect to flights, with respect to trade. There's important meetings coming up where the heads of state might be meeting with each other. There's been similar outreach by India towards the Russian leadership as well. And so this approach by the United States seems to be backfiring economically, defense policy, regionally, in terms of, U.S. grand strategy, in terms of containing China. The last thing that the United States wanted to do was to move India further out of the U.S. camp in the direction of China while strengthening BRICS.
Right.
That seems to me the complete opposite of U.S. grand strategy. So the question you may have, which I have thought about, is, well, how do we explain this? This is so strange. I think that there are a number of causal explanations here. I think one of them happens on a personal level with Donald Trump, where he very much wanted to get credit for mediating between India and Pakistan in terms of the conclusion of Operation Sindoor. Trump has repeatedly sort of exalted his role and the administration's role, especially J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. And Pakistan has been very vocally supportive and complimentary of Trump's role, and even talked about, him deserving a Nobel Prize for it. Meanwhile, India views Trump's role differently and has kind of chafed at President Trump taking credit for the cessation of violence there. So I think that there's a personal element
Okay, Max,
to it.
we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. I'm completely out of time. Thank you so much for your thoughts, your perspective. And like I said, it's a turbulent time in Indo-US relations. We'll see how this plays out. Next week, we will have both the Russian and the Chinese foreign ministers meeting with their Indian counterpart. We'll see how that goes. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll catch you again soon. Happy Independence Day to all our viewers in India and around the world.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Where in the wake of the Renuka-Swamy murder case and after the Supreme Court cancelled his bail, the big news that's coming in is that actor Darshan has been now arrested. He's been taken into custody after the Supreme Court cancelled his bail. That is the big piece of news that's coming in after the Supreme Court dealt that massive blow to actor Darshan. He has now been arrested in the wake of the Supreme Court cancelling his bail. Remember, he was on his way from Tamil Nadu to Bengaluru, and we had accessed those visuals of him moving from Tamil Nadu to Bengaluru after his bail was cancelled. And now the big order that's coming in after the Supreme Court cancelling his bail, Darshan has now been taken into custody in the Renuka-Swamy murder case. I'm joined by my colleague Harish on the broadcast to get more details. So Harish, finally the actor has been arrested after the Supreme Court's big verdict cancelling his bail.
Yes, just moments ago, the Kamakhipalia police have arrested Darshan from his wife's apartment in Hoskerali in Bengaluru South. Even as we speak, the arrest formalities are currently on, and Darshan will be produced before a court later on in the day, perhaps. But this is the big news coming in. We had shown visuals of Darshan's car crossing the toll plaza at Chamrajnagar, and he had perhaps traveled to a place in Tamil Nadu, after which around noon he set off headed back to Bengaluru, and just a while ago, roughly around 4 o'clock is when he's been formally arrested from his wife's apartment in Hoskerali. The clear-cut verdict from the top brass to the police was very clear that implement the Supreme Court order as soon as possible. 4 people were already arrested, including Pavitra Gowda, the prime accused in this case. Darshan was the big fish here, and he's now been arrested moments ago. And perhaps in a short while from now, all the 7 who've been arrested after their bail cancellation will be produced before the magistrate.
Right. And Harish, as per the previous reports that were coming in, he was in Tamil Nadu and he was wearing a mask. The police asked him to remove his mask, and after which he was identified, and then he was making his way from Tamil Nadu to Bengaluru. Does it seem that there was an attempt to evade the authorities?
No, that seems to be just a travel that's happened in the morning to a fair. That is, remember, he was in Chamrajnagar earlier in the day, and that is a border area, and if you cross the Chamrajnagar border, you land in Tamil Nadu. And he had gone for a cow fair or a horse fair. There is the information that came in, and because he was moving around with a face mask, the police asked him to remove it there, and they figured out his identity. But more importantly, he had informed his lawyers that he would surrender before the police, and the police had started tracking all the numbers of all these 7 accused whose bail was cancelled. And we do understand that around 2 o'clock, the police have had one round of conversation where he told the police that he would be appearing before them and he would surrender. And after which they had increased security and also had sent a team to his wife's apartment, anticipating him to turn up there. And although initially 2 cars that we've shown in the CCTV footage did turn up at his house, in both those cars, Darshan was missing. We understand that he reached the apartment in a different car from the back gate. And as soon as he reached this apartment on the 15th floor in this upscale apartment in South Bengaluru, he was taken into custody. Currently, the arrest procedure on. And in a short while from now, you will see those visuals of the police jeep carrying Darshan out of this Prestige Southridge apartment and perhaps taking him to the court, and then he will be sent to the jail. Now the question is, would they immediately send him to the Ballari jail? That's where he was lodged before he got a bail, or would the police or the court send him to the Parapanagarara prison? Remember, that's where he was seen having a gala time, having smoking inside the jail, getting a morning tea, chatting and talking to other inmates there. And that had triggered a huge controversy. Would the state still risk sending him there, or would they send him to Ballari jail? That's where he was lodged after the controversy. That's something that we'll have to see. But there is a bit of a logistical and technical issue, because once the court here in Bengaluru starts framing of charges, all these accused have to appear before the judge. And traveling from Bengaluru to Ballari to Bengaluru would be a logistical nightmare for the police. So would they lodge him in any nearby district, neighboring districts of Bengaluru? That's something that perhaps will become clear as the day progresses.
Right. And Harish, at the same time, as you were pointing out, the optics surrounding this entire case put a huge question mark on the state administration. As you were pointing out, the VIP treatment he got in jail, his foreign travels where he was just enjoying life. In the wake of this, brutal murder case, which involved abduction, torture, and then death, the optics also put a huge question mark on the intent of the state administration.
Yes, one, the intent of the state administration was questioned. Second, the bail itself was questioned, because remember, let's all recollect that initially he walked out of the prison claiming that he was having a back issue, he needed medical treatment. A few weeks later, he managed to get a regular bail. But the scenes that one witnessed after that was completely opposite to what Darshan and his counsel told the court. He said he had a back issue. He skipped appearances multiple times. And in one such case, he was seen at a film event just the very next day. He did not go to the court saying that he had a back issue. The next day, he's at a film event. Then in the last few months, Ayushman, we've seen him having a gala time in Phuket, finishing the shooting of his next movie, Devil, and perhaps completing the dubbing of that as well. And that had triggered a lot of anger among people, saying, how is it that somebody who was involved in such a brutal murder not just managed to walk out of jail with a bail? He had also given wrong reasons. How did the court accept it? One, the state had a grouse.
CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions.
We're live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. Viewers, it wasn't expected, but the Supreme Court has thrown cold water on the sentimental sloganeering of India's dog lover lobby, shifting the stray dog case to a 3-judge bench that wasted no time in foregrounding facts over feelings. After hearing a battery of lawyers representing various animal rights groups, the Supreme Court 3-judge bench reserved its order on pleas, demanding a stay on the earlier Supreme Court double bench order. Now that Supreme Court double bench order created a ripple, viewers, to the length and breadth of India, because that double bench ordered all dogs off the streets into shelters. And that order was delivered on